Hi YouTube. Now this is a different format, huh? So I've got dishes to do, so I thought I'd talk to you about the difference between a midwife and an OBGYN. Because I know I was asked that exact question at work, and one of my other coworkers said, "You know what the difference is? The difference is," and I'll even quote Miss Danielle as saying, "A midwife works for you when OBGYN works for the insurance company." And yeah, I like the way she said that, but let's dive into this a little bit more than that, all right? And hopefully my running water and me doing dishes is not going to be too loud while doing this. So the reason why I'm choosing to use a midwife again for my second pregnancy and hopefully be able to stick with it is I'd like a home birth. Now, let's just say along my journey through the first pregnancy, I wasn't quite 40 yet, but I was pushing 40 I was going to be there pretty soon. So I called the midwife and I'm like, I know I'm super high risk. I'm going to be 40 by the time the kid's born. What do you think? And they're like, that's not high risk. You're healthy enough to have a baby. You're healthy enough to get pregnant. You're healthy enough to have a baby. And we don't consider age as a high risk factor at all. So if you're going to an OBGYN and I think it's over the age of 35, you're considered maternal, I can't remember the word, but they basically call you elderly. They call you old for just being like over 35 and wanting kids. It's crazy. A midwife, I have a private practice midwife. I have a midwife that has her own practice out of her home. I'll see if she'll let me give you her name and all that when I see her for my first appointment on the 23rd. But when I go see her, I'm sitting with her for a full hour. And I don't mean like, oh, I'm sitting with her for a full hour, my first appointment. I mean, every single appointment. So they keep the same schedule as OBGYNs do, which is like, once a month or once every other month in the beginning, and then you go every 2 weeks, and then you go once a week. That schedule that the OBGYNs have, the midwives have that same schedule. At least mine does. Has that same exact schedule. But instead of me going in, peeing in a cup, getting test results, and them going, oh yeah, you look fine, and kicking me out the door, my midwife sits with me for an hour each time and goes, hey, how are you doing? What's going on at home? Are you ready for baby? Have you thought about, I don't know, do you have the bassinet set up? Are you, how are you peeing? How are you pooping? How is your mental state? All of that's going on, not just being pushed through an office. And I can say that because when I did turn high risk on my last pregnancy, I did have to go to an OBGYN. And it felt very inhumane. I never knew who I was going to see when I went into the office because they had a whole practice. Nobody I think really got to know me because everyone was just like, oh, that patient is, that patient number XYZ and she's going to have a baby on this date or whatever. This date or whatever. But I don't think they really got to know me. And they're just like, and I had to be set up on the monitor every time I went in there. So I go in to the OBGYN's office. They'd be like, okay, yeah, let's go in the back room. We'll set up a monitor on your belly. It's got to be on for 15 minutes. And I get left alone for 15 minutes with a monitor on me. And a few times the monitor starts beeping and doing crazy things, and you can see the pressures drop and pressures go up and all this stuff. There's no one there to walk you through what's going on or when it's happening or anything. They're just like, they come in after a while with the machine making noises, and it's like, I know from being there so many times that the machine that they had put me on, I had never been on it before. And I'm going, that machine's different than the one that I'm used to being on. I said, before you try to admit me into the hospital, can you just set me up with another machine? Oh, this one's right. I'm like, no, I want another machine before you decide whatever you're going to decide based on the results coming from that machine, because I just don't think they're right. They wound up listening, thank goodness, got another machine, brought it and hooked that one up to me. And guess what? I was fine. I just don't find that OBGYNs are really that attentive to you as a midwife is. Plus, OBGYNs, or at least the one I saw, it was like still with the whole, oh, you can't eat this, and you can't eat that, and you can't eat this, and you can't eat that. My OBG and my midwife is like, if you can eat it and it stays down, just as long as it doesn't have like mold growing on it or it's not anything that you would normally eat, have at it. Because if you want to eat pickles and ice cream, go eat your pickles and ice cream. Or if you want sushi, go eat sushi. It's a lean, clean protein. Just make sure you don't get it from a vending machine, you know? And that's just common sense. Just go, if you're going to have sushi, go get it from somewhere you've always gotten sushi from, and make sure that it looks and tastes the same as it always did. And if it doesn't, then don't eat it. It's stupid common sense. So that's part of the reason why I like my midwife. Hold on. It's just, there's a lot of things like that. Midwives, I think my last 2 or 3 appointments with my midwife the last time, she came to my house for my appointment. I didn't have to go into the office. They also do the well baby care. So that first appointment you're supposed to have within 24 hours for your newborn with the pediatrician. The midwife can do that at my house. So instead of having to truck a brand new baby, package up a brand new baby and get them out on the road, you get to stay at home and do your thing. And they do like three or 4 after birth visits too. And goodness, you get to have your kid at home too. So I noticed when I had my pregnancy at the hospital, I could get my contractions going, and they would start, and I'd be ready to just sitting there I'd be walking around and my contractions would start. The hospital would be like, oh, your contractions are starting. You need to go sit down in bed. It's like, no wonder I was induced for 4 days. 4 days of being induced, because every time I had a mild contraction, they put me right back in the bed again. I'm like, this is so stupid. If you let me walk around, I can get my contractions going. If you let me sit in a chair besides sitting in the bed, if you let me just move and be and breathe, I could probably get this kid to start moving around. But if you just, every time a mild contraction, I'm like to the point where I never felt the contractions. They showed up on a monitor, but I never felt them. They're like, you need to go into bed. Stupid. So hopefully this time my midwife can, we can keep my pregnancy as non-high risk. The reason I high risk is because when I did my gestational diabetes test, it did come back that I had gestational diabetes, and with that, that plus my blood pressures kept creeping up. My midwife's like, "You're just getting into a risky point where I can't care for you," and I respect that entirely. If you have a midwife that's like, "Oh, it doesn't matter that your blood pressure and your sugars are all off kilter and everything, we'll still care for you," that's probably a bad midwife, because then they think they're superhuman, and that's not right. You need a midwife that knows when a home birth is going to be dangerous and not to do it at home, and maybe you need to go into the hospital, or maybe you need an OBGYN care so you get some extra monitoring. And that's okay, but I think that's just my stance on what the difference is between an OBGYN and a midwife. Plus, a midwife, they're not only concerned with pregnancy, but because they'll do the whole, birth control and discussions about birth control and women's care and all that stuff as well. But really, the majority of the people that go to private practice midwives are using them for at-home births and natural births. So you got somebody that's doing probably 90% pregnant women and 10% of the care for those pregnant women afterwards, or pre-care for those people. But the majority are doing the whole thing with a midwife for the birth. So the OBGYNs are seeing a lot of more people that are not, I wouldn't say not in the range of having kids, because they can, but they're seeing general population. They're seeing a lot of anywhere from 13-year-olds with periods to, well, whenever you get premenopausal and menopausal and stuff. But the midwife is, I think it's the way to go. And like Danielle says, I really think that they are there for you. They're not just for the insurance companies. They don't have protocols that the insurance companies have. When I had my daughter, even though I had a C-section, I asked that we had delayed cord cutting. Do you know what delayed cord cutting is in a hospital? 30 seconds. That's not delayed cord cutting. Delayed cord cutting is when the placenta stops feeding the baby blood, and the cord stops pulsating and moving blood to the baby. If you're cutting that cord too soon, you're basically starving the kid of all this blood that they could use to be healthy. And then that's why the hospitals want you to give I think it's not vitamin D, but it might be vitamin D. I gotta look all this stuff up again. Oh. But trying to give the kid vitamins because of the blood loss that they created by cutting the cord too soon. So and I think really a midwife, if you tell the midwife, like, here's my birth plan. I want reggaeton music at full blast, da 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 da. They're gonna do that for you. If you tell a hospital that, they're gonna be like, we have to think of the other patients that want it to be quiet. Or you want to be like, I need to go outside and scream. They're gonna let you go outside and scream. Or a hospital's gonna be like, get back in that bed. So, yeah, I guess that's the stance on where I am between midwife and OBGYN. And I hope that's a good video for you. I'll try to do more videos like this while I'm doing stuff around the house instead of driving, especially now that I'm pregnant. I will try to find time to do this better, and hopefully, definitely, as the garden gets underway and figuring out all that process, that you guys are on that journey and get to see what we're doing. All right. Right now, there's nothing as far as gardens at all. All right. Have a great evening, YouTube. Good night.